Okay, I'm about to make Texas sheet cake. Texas apple cinnamon sheet cake. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 2 cups of flour to my bowl. I'm going to add 2 cups of flour to my bowl. Then I'm going to add half a teaspoon of kosher salt. Half a teaspoon of kosher salt. Then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. One teaspoon of cinnamon. Then I'm going to add 1 cup of dark brown sugar. Packed, dark brown sugar. Tightly packed dark brown sugar. Then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. One teaspoon of baking soda. Then I'm gonna whisk. I'm gonna whisk all my dry ingredients together. And just make sure everything is fully incorporated. And try to eliminate any lumps. Okay, eliminate the lumps. So I'm going to set this aside. Oh, and one other ingredient, half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Half a teaspoon of nutmeg. I'm going to add to it. I'm going to incorporate the nutmeg. All right, then I'm going to set this aside. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 sticks of salted butter. I'm going to turn my saucepan on to medium. And I'm going to melt these 2 sticks of butter into my saucepan. Melt these 2 sticks of butter into my saucepan. And while I'm melting that into my saucepan, I'm gonna add 1 cup of normal granulated sugar. To my batter. One cup of granulated sugar. To my batter, and I'm just going to incorporate that. Into my batter while I'm melting my butter. See, there's no lumps and everything's perfectly incorporated, and I'm just melting my butter. So now I'm just melting my butter. Okay, so now my butter is fully melted. It's fully melted, not burned. Make sure you don't. So as soon as the butter liquefies, which it has done, my butter has liquefied. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna take my homemade apple cider, and I'm gonna add 1 cup of my homemade apple cider to these ingredients, or to the butter. So I'm gonna add 1 cup of my homemade apple cider. And I'm gonna incorporate that. Then I'm gonna remove this from the heat. No, actually, now what I'm gonna do, now that I've added that, I'm gonna cut my heat off, and I'm gonna slowly add this to my dry ingredients. I'm gonna start slowly adding this to my dry ingredients. Slowly and carefully. Just gonna add the remainder. And as you can see, my ingredients have become glossy. All my ingredients are now glossy. This is what you want, that perfect gloss. Which smells absolutely amazing. Just want to make sure all the flour is incorporated. Then what I want to do is I want to let this cool for about 10 minutes before adding my final ingredients. Okay, so now my batter has cooled down. I let it cool for about 10 or 15 minutes. So now what I want to do is I want to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I want to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then I want to add half of a cup of sour cream. Now, I didn't make the sour cream from scratch. I bought it at the store. But half a cup of sour cream. Half of a cup of sour cream. So I'm going to incorporate this into my ingredients. And now I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 eggs. I'm going to add 1 egg at a time. That's why you add them 1 at a time, so that the yolk incorporates itself, so that you fully incorporate the yolk. And the reason you let it cool down is so that it doesn't scramble the eggs. Yep, so make sure everything is fully incorporated. And that's my batter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this aside. And I'm going to take my apples that I've cut into cubes. I've cut them into cubes. And the way you cut them into cubes is you take it's about 6 apples that I've cut into cubes. And the way that I did that was I took my apple. I cut around the core. Like this. Cut around the core. Then I take each apple slice. I cut them in 2s. And then you cut that in half. So again, take an apple, cut it in twos. Then you cut that in half. And if they come out too big, you just cut them like that. If the half is too big, so cut it in half. Cut it into twos. Cut it in half. Cut it in half. And cut it in half again. Cut it in twos again. Okay, and that's your apple cubes. And I peeled the apples as well. So now what you want to do is you just want to put all these into a bowl. And now to this bowl, you want to add 1 tablespoon of normal granulated sugar. One tablespoon of normal granulated sugar. Then you want to add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Then you want to add half a teaspoon of cinnamon. So now what you want to do is you just want to toss all these together. Incorporate it with all your apples. Toss everything. Then what you want to do is now you want to take a baking sheet that you put put parchment paper on. And you want to pour your batter onto your baking sheet. Shoot. See, that happens. I dropped the bowl. That happens. But you just spread your batter evenly. As possible. Okay, so now once your batter is even, now what you want to do is you want to just slowly add your apples. You want to evenly and slowly add your apples to it, so that it covers all the batter. And once you see that all the apples are incorporated into the batter, like it is, you see the batter, the apples are fully incorporated. You want to put this in your oven that's been preheated to 350 degrees, and you want to bake it for about 15 or 20 minutes. Now, while you're baking it, you want to make your glaze. So what you want to do is you want to take 1 stick of salted butter. And this is all salted butter that was used for this recipe, not unsalted, salted. So you want to melt 1 stick of unsalted butter into your saucepan. Melt 1 stick of butter into your saucepan, just like you did before. One stick of butter, you melt that into your saucepan. Okay, so now my butter is fully melted. So now what I want to do, my 1 stick of butter is fully melted, and I'm doing this while I'm cooking while I'm baking the cake, the sheet cake. So now I'm going to add one-fourth of a cup of my homemade apple cider to it. One-fourth of a cup of my homemade apple cider. Then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sour cream. Two tablespoons of sour cream. Then I'm going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. One-fourth of a teaspoon of cinnamon. Then I'm going to mix all my ingredients. Then I'm going to mix all my ingredients. I'm just gonna mix up my ingredients until they're smooth. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add 3 cups of powdered sugar. That's my 2 cups. I'm gonna add 1 more cup. 3 cups of powdered sugar. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my whisk and I'm going to start whisking this. Try to eliminate any lumps, as many lumps as I can. And I'm going to cook my glaze until it bubbles. I'm going to heat my glaze up until it bubbles. Yep, I'm going to keep cooking it and I'm going to heat it up until it bubbles. Until it starts to bubble. Okay, so now my glaze is bubbling and there's no solids in it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat off, take it off the heat, then I'm going to pour my glaze over my cake as soon as I take it out of the oven. My cake is not quite ready yet, as you can see, but once my cake is fully baked and ready, I'm going to take it out of the oven and pour my glaze on it while it's hot, fresh out of the oven. And that's your Texas apple cinnamon sheet cake. And that's what you want.